This is Access Houston on 97.9 The Box.
Good Sunday morning. You're listening to Access Houston. I'm your host, KG Smooth, welcoming back my favorite people in the city from AIDS Foundation Houston. It is the CEO, Miss Kelly Young. Hello, darling.
Hello, how are you?
Welcome back. And ladies and gentlemen, she's finally decided to come on the show again after we've missed her I don't know how many times. Yes, I'm putting you on blast. The CDO of AIDS Foundation Houston, Melody Patelis.
Hi, KG.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Long time no see.
I know. I'm happy to be back. Thank you.
I'm happy to have
Thanks
you all
for
back.
letting me back.
No doubt.
Yes.
And if it's April, then it means that we are going to we're going to dine out for life.
Yes.
Dine out for life. The one day that we are going to fight AIDS here in H-Town. So tell the city what dining out for life is and what it benefits.
Well, a couple things. One is, first of all, last month we asked you to walk for HIV AIDS.
Yes.
And you did a fabulous job, by the way, even though
thank
it was
you.
pouring down rain. We do appreciate it coming out for that. And so we
Anything
try
for
to
you
make
guys.
all of our fundraising events and our awareness events super easy. So this literally is an event where you go out and you eat.
Yeah.
That's it. There is
Come-
no other
come out and eat.
requirement at all.
We ask you to walk and eat. That's
We
all.
ask you to walk and eat. It's like, a nice balance in your life, right?
right. Eat and then walk it off.
Exactly. And we're extremely lucky, just like we have you always participate and walk. We have all these great restaurants that my parents owned a restaurant, and I think people think that restaurants make a lot of money, and they really don't, but they have huge commitments to their community. And this is one of those events where you really, again, see a community involved in working around HIV AIDS. So we have these great restaurants that come out and support this event. And I'm serious. Literally all it is get all your friends together, decide to go out that one night, pick one of these restaurants. You're benefiting them, but then they're benefiting us. And in the end, we're benefiting the people that we're trying to serve.
Absolutely. So how does that work exactly,
So how
Melody?
does
So
it
when
work?
they come out and then they go to one of the many participating restaurants, there's a percentage that goes? Like what? How does it work?
There is a portion of the proceeds from that evening go to AIDS Foundation Houston to go to support our housing, our prevention, testing, education, all of our work within inside the prison system in Texas. So it does a lot of good. We raise a lot of money that evening.
That's good. You just mentioned something that piqued my interest. I didn't know that you all worked in the prison systems as well. What with education and with support? Tell me about it.
Well, we're actually the primary STI and HIV educators within the state prison system. And the way that it works is that we educate inmates, and then they become the teachers in their own prisons.
Okay.
So they basically are holding classes with other inmates talking about STIs and HIV AIDS and prison safety. And so we train the trainer within a prison, because if I go and show up and talk to a bunch of inmates, they're going to be like, that was nice, but
Right.
she doesn't have any idea what she's talking about,
Right.
considering what I'm going through. And so they teach the classes, and then once a year, all of the prisons coordinate for these educators to come to one conference. So they all come from different areas and go to another prison, and they are there all day long learning about new things about HIV and AIDS. And what's really unique is each of these groups puts together an educational presentation to demonstrate the work they're doing within their prison. So like 2 years ago when I was up seeing at the conference, they put on this whole boxing match between HIV. So it was against the T cells and HIV virus. And it was this whole amazing production.
Wow.
And
they make all the costumes. You should see the video.
It's amazing.
It really
You guys
is.
have it up on your site?
No, I don't. I don't.
We always have a little bit of an issue with TDCJ because they got
Oh,
rules.
okay.
They got lots of rules.
Yeah,
They
that's
have a
right.
lot
Ding,
of
ding,
rules.
ding. They're in a prison, KG. You
Right.
can't put, right.
But
Got it.
when you come over sometime, we'll definitely show it to you, because it's really a unique program and a lot of people don't hear about it. And so they educate over, I don't know, I think we're at
About 70,000 people per year through. There's about 1,500 peer educators that we've trained, and then of course they go out and they train the prison population that they live in.
Wow.
And we're in over 100 prisons across the state of Texas. But the second piece then is about 4 years ago, we started a program called Somebody Cares, which was a linkage program. So as prisoners were getting released and back into the community, that they got automatically hooked up into care. So you weren't losing that ability for them to get in to see a doctor and get on their medication and get taken care of, because they only leave. So from state prisons, they only leave with about 10 days worth of medication. So they need to get right back into care. If you are in county, it depends on how many days you have left. So if you were given a 30-day supply and you get out within 25 days, you only have 5 days worth of pills left. So you got to make sure that people are getting connected as soon as they get out back
Right.
into care, so that they don't lose any of the momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's all about viral load. Lowering your viral load so you become undetectable, and then your chance of infecting another person is almost nothing.
None.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
mean, and truly, they've actually, quite a bit of research has come out in the last year, and it was a major focus even for our health department to get to the point where they're like, no, undetectable equals untransmittable.
Yeah.
Nobody loves the word untransmittable, but they kind of help it work through
That's the new
people
language.
being able to hear it, because it's
it
basically
changes,
yeah,
right? Because
yeah.
it went from, if I'm not mistaken, from undetectable to virally suppressed or something like that.
Right.
Correct.
And it basically means the same thing. The only difference is that when you think about virally suppressed, first of all, that sounds very infectious disease doctor language.
Yeah,
Like that's
yeah,
what
yeah.
I would say if I was wearing a white coat.
Right,
kind of
like
thing.
undetectable means like,
That's
oh,
right.
okay, you can't detect it. Like, okay,
Right.
it says that you have it, but if you were to take,
Right.
like, I don't know, the home test, it won't come up.
Right. And
Yeah.
then as I have, if I'm engaged in sex with other people, then I'm also not transmitting
Not
it.
transmitting it.
And they're
Right.
pretty sure that that's what's
Some
happening.
new studies just came out last year that show that someone who is virally suppressed, undetectable,
Yeah.
and they're in a relationship with somebody who is negative, that there have been zero infections.
You know what? I remember that story that you told me, Melody, a couple of years ago. It
Right.
was a married couple. He was positive. The wife did not know it. They had been having unprotected sex, of course, because they're married. He told her that she was, if I'm getting the story right, was that they were vitamin pills or something another.
Right.
And found out what it was, and she went and got tested and came back negative.
Correct.
Right. And in the study, they did 1,140 individuals. 60% were heterosexual and 40% were homosexual. And so in that study, they showed 0% of transmission.
Wow.
So they've done enough research to show
Right.
that the way for us to get to zero is to get people undetectable. And there's two ways to do that. One, if you're HIV positive, get into care, stay into
Stay into
care, which we
care,
talk about all
right.
the time. And then the second is that for periods of time when you're, which I thought was funny, because what was the word they said they didn't like the popular.
Yes,
They were trying
yes.
to change the language, instead of saying, going out and having a good time and high
If you're
risk,
a very popular person,
So then they were like, let's just
Very
use.
popular person.
And Melody and I were like, yeah, we remember being popular in high school. But when you're having a popular time in your life, we just thought it was funny because they made this whole argument about how to not use at risk and all this kind of stuff. And then it was like, again, another kind of white coat lab person saying popular, But let's say you're having a very popular time in your life.
That's funny.
Then getting on PrEP.
That is funny. Yes, get on PrEP. It's very important. You're listening to Access Houston. We're talking to Kelly Young and Melody Patelis from AIDS Foundation Houston. Dining Out for Life is happening Thursday, April 27th. Mark your calendars for that. I will be participating in one of the many restaurants who will also be participating. You guys said I'll be at where? I'll
at
be
El
where?
Tiempo
El
on
Tiempo.
Montrose,
Okay.
the 1308 location.
That's where I will be, folks. So come through and just eat. Have a good time. We're going to talk, and proceeds will benefit AIDS Foundation Houston. I want to share a story with you, ladies, especially Melody, with that staggering statistic that you shared. Did we talk about that on air?
We haven't. No.
Yeah, you told me a new statistic when it comes to Black Americans and
Yes.
the infection rate, new infection
Actually,
rate.
in Houston.
In the city of Houston.
In the city of Houston, Black population is 18% of the population of Houston, yet 50% of the new infections.
Stunning. Just absolutely stunning. I can't believe that. You gotta wake up, folks. You gotta be more careful now. I've said this to you before on my other show on our sister station, Magic 102.1, where I do the Quiet Storm, and I kind of have like a little sexual health segment, and I say all the time, if you know that you are out here being popular,
It's going to catch on, I can tell.
if you are out here being okay, you need to protect yourself, and you should get on PrEP, especially if you know that you like sex and you want to explore your sexual freedom with different people. Be responsible.
Right.
Just be responsible.
Yeah, no
Right.
judgment.
Right.
None.
Do what you
No.
do what you want to do. Just be safe.
Be safe.
Right.
Good friend of mine, actually an ex-girlfriend, when I was doing radio in Georgia, she had called me a couple of weeks ago and told me that she just found out that she was positive. She sounded fine. I mean, she sounded like she was okay with it. I was like, what happened? First, she was telling me about these skin rashes that she was seeing, like these patches of some sort of rash or of another, and got these ointments and creams and stuff, didn't go away. Never, and throughout all this time, never thought. And I was like, but you know better. Like, what? You were kind of helping me doing this work when I was in Georgia. Like, what? What's really, really going on here? First it was the rashes, and then she started to lose her hair a little bit. And then she had an event, and she said that her legs were beginning to swell throughout the weeks, and then they were swollen so bad and that they hurt that she had to go to the emergency room. And that's when they did all the testing. It came back that she indeed was positive. And so I asked her, was she okay mentally? She's like, yeah, I'm fine. I do know that it's not the death sentence that it once was. And she has an uncle who has been living with HIV for like 33 years.
Right.
And so she's all right. But I'm like, if you knew, you know your body better than anyone else. Like, if you knew some things were not right, like, why didn't you go? And on top of that, you're telling me that you weren't feeling good, but yet you were doing drugs. So why would, I can't, I don't get that. I don't. I understand that people may go through some terrible things mentally. That's my first concern when someone finds out that they're positive, like their mental state, because some people will just go off the handle. I've heard people say, like, oh, I just want to go around and sleep with everybody until they all get it, because they're mad.
Right.
They're angry. And it's just like, sometimes you just want to choke them.
That's why getting tested is so important. I mean, I don't know if you're aware, but when you first become positive, your viral load goes up extremely high, and the chance of you transmitting the disease is much higher those first few weeks after you become infected. And so then once it just kind of levels out after that. But if you are tested frequently in Houston, really because of the high infection rate here in Houston, you should be tested twice a year. But even if you just do the minimum, going in once a year, your yearly checkup, and just say, hey, add an HIV test to that. That's all you have to do, But yeah, as soon as you find out that you are HIV positive, get on meds so that viral load goes down.
Well, and you'll feel better, and I understand sort of like this happened to me, but in any other case, so let's say I know I have a family history of diabetes. Well, I'm going to be aware and prepare for that, right?
Breast cancer, or
exactly.
anything.
So from a preventative perspective, if you take out all the stigma and all the shame and all the crazy stuff we've ever done around HIV in particular, because we see it differently than we see other chronic illnesses. And you were just like, yeah, these are things that I do. And because of that, I need to think more preventively about how to keep my sexual health in good condition.
Yeah.
okay, great. Then you make sure you're getting tested and you get on care. There is absolutely no reason anybody should have an AIDS diagnosis at this point, and nobody
In
should
life,
die
yeah.
from AIDS.
Yeah,
That
I'm
are
with you.
complications of AIDS. That
Sure.
we are
I'm
so
with
far
you.
beyond that. I mean,
Yeah.
in 1985, your length of living was about 8 years. Now it's 60 plus. So you have your entire life. Well, if I found out I was a diabetic, I'm not going to be angry because I didn't deserve to be a
Right. I'm not
diabetic.
just-
I mean, I could be
I'm
mad
not
at
gonna go buy a
everybody.
tub of M&Ms
Right,
and
exactly.
pop 'em.
I'm just going to be mad at all of my family and, shove ice cream down their throats because
Right.
I'm sick. What I need to do is shift my brain and say, yes, but I'm worthy and it's worth it to me to have a great life. And this is something that is manageable. And the more we take care of that, and I think people forget your social circle is typically pretty small, and that's why you see infection rates in clumps of people. I think about myself in college. I mean, I hate to say it, but all of my girlfriends and all of my boyfriends all dated all of
The
our
same
girlfriends
people.
and all of
And,
our
the
boyfriends,
same,
right?
right.
I mean, you just kind of
Yeah, the
did
circle's
that,
small.
right?
Yeah.
And so the same thing's going to happen. It just means you have to then add extra layers. Just like if I have a family that's diabetic, I got to pay attention to that. So
Right.
if that's the case, then take it upon yourself to say, yeah, I don't have to be, if I get sick, I don't have to feel sick, and I don't have to continue to be sick. I can become undetectable. But more importantly, I also can engage in behaviors, particularly with PrEP, where I don't even have to get sick. So, it's putting that as the messaging, and if everybody could accept that, we could get to zero really, really fast.
Real fast. You're listening to Access Houston, talking to Kelly and Melody from AIDS Foundation Houston. Dining Out for Life is Thursday, April 27th, where we dine out for one day to fight AIDS. I want to bring this up because I read this article last week, and I talked about it on The Quiet Storm during my little sexual health segment, which is like around 10:25 that I do this. HPV numbers among adults between what was the age bracket? Oh, I'm having a
Starts pretty
brain fart.
young.
Yeah. I want to say it was 18 to 34, but then I want to say it might have been up to 55 or something like that, or 54. Numbers are up. HPV, another incurable sexually transmitted disease.
Yes.
However, it does not have the same stigma or look or negativeness attached to it, such as HIV and
Correct.
AIDS.
Correct.
Huge problem. You do not have to report. They don't have laws that you tell your partner that you have HPV like they do HIV. I mean, if you put them up, they're essentially the same kind of thing because there's no cure.
Right.
But yet
Right.
there's this horrible stigma on HIV/AIDS and nothing about HPV.
Yeah, the last statistic that I saw about HPV was that if you've been sexually active and you're over 18 years old, about 80% of individuals in the United States have HPV. So it is a sexually transmitted disease. We just don't talk about it because it doesn't kill you, I guess. That's
Well,
the
it
thing.
doesn't kill you immediately.
Immediately,
Right.
true.
Once they figured out that the links between some cancers and women in particular. But I think your point is really valid because when you think about who does the media talk about? So this is about protecting young girls and their, it fits the story around virginity and not being sexually active young because this is something that could happen. But that's not typically, and certainly was not typical of the discussions when HIV/AIDS came out. And is it hypocritical? Completely, because these are both viruses, or any virus that's coming out is, particularly from a sexual health perspective, it's about your sexual health. It's like
Yes.
heart health. It's like anything
Right.
else. But for whatever reason, it feels less. Well, the protective factor comes in much higher for young girls, and making sure that they don't have sex than people who are engaging in sexual behavior that you may have an opinion about. So I find it kind of ironic. The other thing is that the focus was completely on young women and not on young men. And that was part of when it first came out, the vaccine, where particularly for people who know about women's health, we're like, yes, it's fine to give the vaccination to the girls, but they're not the ones who are actually,
Right.
Transmitting it.
Transmitting
right.
it.
It's
Yeah.
actually the boys. So why are we not focused on trying to figure out the right vaccine for them so they're not transmitting?
And there's
Same thing
not
I
a-
have about teen
yeah.
pregnancy.
And
Totally
there's not
different
a
point, but,
vaccine for the boys, so it's
So again,
yeah.
the woman has to be the protective and sort of the person who who has to take the vaccine or the medication versus it focused on male sexual behavior versus female sexual behavior. That was a little bit of a side note and not necessarily a comment from AIDS Foundation Houston.
That was a Kelly Young
This is my
comment.
That was a little bit of a Kelly Young conversation.
We'll hold you to that. But listen, we are gearing up. Thursday, mark the day for Thursday. Not this Thursday, but next Thursday, the 27th. Thursday the 27th, we're dining out for life. Dine out one day to fight AIDS. And I will be at El Tiempo on Montrose. It's 1308 Cantina by Montrose Boulevard. So come on out there. All my early morning people who are listeners and fans of Access Houston. Ladies, it's always a pleasure to have you all on the program and
You're
talk.
our favorite.
You are.
We
Thank
actually,
you.
she texted me. She's like, "What are we going to talk to KG about?" And I was like, "It doesn't matter. He'll have something that he wants to talk about.
We'll just
It's
talk.
always our favorite one because it's just an hour of
It's
you know
just easy breezy,
sharing and
huh?
talking
Yeah.
exactly
And
of being
I-
popular.
So if you want to hang out with the popular KG Smooth, come to El Tiempo 1308 Cantina in Montrose on Thursday, April 27th for Dining Out for Life Dine Out one day to fight AIDS. Kelly Patelis, CEO, Kelly Patelis, Lord have mercy. Kelly Young, CEO, and Melody Patelis, CDO of AIDS Foundation Houston. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening to Access Houston.
We'll be back with more Access Houston on 97.9 The Box.